Ебать-то, Люсю! Блядь!
Tonight, the winter sky east of Moscow didn't glow with auroras. It flashed industrial orange. A power giant that usually hums quietly through the cold months was suddenly front-page drama. In the town of Shatura, about 120 kilometers from the Kremlin, massive flames leapt into the night. Residents filmed and swore, and a new line was crossed in a war that keeps rewriting its rules. Reports say drones slammed into one of Russia's biggest thermal power stations, igniting transformers and forcing officials to scramble as temperatures hover near freezing. Russia calls it an attack. Ukraine isn't confirming. But the fireball is real, and it lit up more than the skyline. Within hours, the footage raced across social feeds. A distant inferno beyond snowy rooftops. The kind of blaze that turns every window into a mirror of panic. Russia's governor of Moscow Oblast, Andrei Vorobyov, said drones were intercepted, some anyway, and others reached the Shatura power station, touching off fires in multiple transformer yards. Emergency crews poured in. Heating disruptions followed in a town of roughly 33,000 people. For a plant that helps keep Moscow's eastern flank warm and lit, this was not a small scare. It was a strategic gut punch. Open source sleuths amplified the story. OSINT Technical pushed out a clip and the claim that the blast struck the plant's northern side, while outlets in Kyiv flagged the same target but underlined the caveat we all have to live with in wartime. Details can be messy in the first light. No official word from Ukraine's military, no chest thumping from Kyiv, just the images and that glow. In other words, assume less, verify more. Here's why this plant matters. Shaturskaya GRES, born in the peat-burning days of Soviet electrification, has grown into a modern gas-fired heavyweight, with an installed capacity in the ballpark of 1.5 gigawatts. Think of it as a muscular node on the grid that feeds both electrons and heat into a densely populated region. Take even a slice of that away during a Russian winter, and people notice, fast. The map nerds will also tell you, this is deep Russia, not a border oil depot. The strike, if confirmed as Ukrainian, is bolder than most we've seen. Let's roll the tape back for context. For nearly 2 years, Russia has used missiles and Shahed-class drones to grind at Ukraine's energy system. Transformers, substations, thermal plants, the grid itself as a battlefield. Ukraine learned to harden, disperse, repair overnight, and patch together power with a resilience that sometimes looked like witchcraft. But it also learned another lesson. If you want your enemy to stop kicking your grid, make his own grid feel a little glass-jawed. Tonight, that lesson came home to Moscow's backyard. Officials in the region said fire crews localized the blaze, and that emergency heating fixes were rolling in. But a localized blaze at a transformer farm is not the same thing as a non-event. Transformers are the unsung heroes of modern life. You don't notice them until they're smoking on TikTok. The governor's statements, paired with the footage, leave us with a picture of partial damage, real disruption, and a message delivered across hundreds of miles of winter air. The video angle matters too. If you're wondering where that northern side detail came from, it wasn't an official incident report. It was the open source crowd geolocating flashes against satellite shots and past stills of the plant. Is that perfect? No. Is it often right? More than many care to admit. Tonight, the triangulation of camera angles, skyline contours, and heat blooms points to a strike zone that matches the chatter. Your algorithm didn't lie to you this time. Well, not much. To complicate the fog, some Russian-aligned outlets later insisted there were no power or heat outages. Others pointed to short-term disruptions and mobile boiler deployments. Welcome to wartime reporting, where even thermostats can be political prisoners. The safest read right now, there was a fire. It was serious, and authorities hustled to contain both flames and panic. The magnitude of downstream outages is still a moving target. If you're new here, Shatura isn't a quaint boiler room. It's a complex array of legacy units and newer, higher efficiency blocks. In 2010, a 400 megawatt combined cycle gas turbine, think jet engine married to a steam cycle, went live, boosting efficiency and lowering fuel burn. Take that out for weeks, and you don't just lose watts, you lose a crucial peaker and the cushion in cold snaps. That's how a single station becomes a regional headache. Russian defense officials, never shy with big numbers, claimed they intercepted a wave of drones across multiple regions. Dozens swatted, they said. Yet still, we saw the fire at Shatura. One lesson of this war is that air defense is a probability game, not a force field. You can stop many, deter more, and one still gets through to embarrass you on a Sunday night. That one counts. And the count is political as much as electrical. Also notable, brief flight suspensions at Moscow's Vnukovo airport, while air defense did its ballet, a capital that must pause its airspace, even temporarily, because drones are buzzing its periphery, is a capital learning the limits of strategic depth. Russia taught Ukraine that lesson in 2022. In 2025, Ukraine is teaching it back. Ownership and scale hint at stakes. Shaturskaya GRES sits in the Unipro portfolio, the same company that runs some of Russia's largest thermal assets. That 1.5 gigawatt headline figure isn't just a trophy stat. It's a signpost for repair complexity, replacement part headaches, and the uncomfortable truth that big, efficient turbines don't grow on birch trees. In a sanction-strangled economy, fixing modern gas gear can be as hard as defending it. What exactly burned? Early statements point to transformer yards, those steel-ribbed fields of oil-cooled giants that step voltage up and down like bouncers at a nightclub. When they go with fireworks and smoke you can see for counties. Transformers are heavy, custom, and slow to replace, even in peacetime. In wartime, with supply chains rerouted and insurers chewing glass, the timeline gets longer. That's a strategic effect, not just a cool video. And yes, the imagery has the rawness of a dashcam comedy cut with a disaster movie. Snow, distant flames, and more than one very Russian expletive. You don't need a linguist to translate blit in a video where the horizon is literally on fire. Humor is a coping mechanism. Tonight, it also doubles as world-class battle damage assessment. Sometimes all the SIGINT you need is a street full of people pointing and cursing. Now zoom out. For months, Ukraine has probed targets far from the front: oil depots, logistics hubs, and export terminals. The idea is simple and ruthless. Make Russia pay strategic rent for a war of attrition. Hitting a power plant, if that's what this was, amps up both the symbolism and the systemic pressure. Oil is the war wallet. Electricity is the nervous system. One funds the missiles, the other keeps the command posts warm. The winter calculus is brutal on both sides. In Ukraine, Russia's December into January strikes repeatedly tried to bend the grid until it broke. Cities went dark, boilers went cold, and utility crews became the heroes nobody asked to be. In Russia, a burn at Shatura on November 23rd arrives like a reminder. Energy is no longer a sanctuary, even when you're hundreds of kilometers from the front line. That reality is going to shape strategy through the snow season. Let's talk escalation logic. Energy infrastructure has always been dual use in a very literal way. It powers hospitals and tank plants, apartment radiators and radar arrays. Legally murky? Often. Militarily relevant? Absolutely. In 2023 to 2025, the taboo line crept inch by inch. If Ukraine's drones tagged Shatura, it's a deliberate signpost. Not just we can reach you, but we can touch what you need to keep Moscow comfortable. Technically, the strike also says something about drone design. Range, guidance, terminal homing, and warhead size all have to align to tag hard targets in the heartland. You don't just tape an engine to a pipe bomb and pray over 120 kilometers. If we end up seeing crater patterns near transformers or blast signatures consistent with a sub-50 kilogram payload, that points to one of Kyiv's long-range, one-way UAS families rather than improvisation. Tonight's smoke is an engineering data point. On the Russian side, air defense keeps learning, and sometimes relearning, the hard lessons. Layered sensors, queuing between military and civilian radars, point defense at critical nodes. You can ring Moscow with pantsirs, and still get stung where the grid is most exposed. At outdoor equipment stuffed with oil, copper, and the devil's own lead times. Defense is a sieve you keep shrinking, never a wall you finish. So what breaks first? Morale, metal, or logistics? If the transformer fields took the hit we think they did, the immediate danger is not a nationwide blackout. It's bottlenecked transmission and local heat deficits, right when hot water matters most. The governor promised mobile heating units and quick stabilization. Maybe he gets it. Or maybe supply reroutes and load shedding will test the region's patience for days or weeks. The footage won't tell you that part. The grid operators will. What about generation units? Shatura's heart includes that newer 400 megawatt combined cycle block alongside older 200 to 210 megawatt turbines. If the flames stayed in the transformer yards, you could see a faster return of some output once switches, bushings, and yard gear are made safe. If auxiliary systems or cable galleries were cooked, welcome to the land of spares, scavenging, and long-form paperwork. Either way, this isn't a wipe the soot, hit start kind of Monday. Conflicting outage claims? That's par for the course. One outlet shrugs, no impact. Another shows videos of radiator bleeds and soup kitchens. Treat it as Schrodinger's blackout until grid data or consumer reports harden into a pattern. The only consensus item right now is the big one. Something hit Shatura hard enough to set those transformers roaring. In strategic communications, that's 80% of the victory. Let's drop a quick fact that matters tomorrow morning: plant ownership and supply chains. Unipro runs 5 big thermal stations across Russia, and like every operator, it has to juggle sanctions, parts availability, and vendor tech support. A lot of modern gas hardware was designed to be maintained with global logistics. Global is not a thing Russia gets to say with a straight face anymore. Even when you have money, you need a bridge to the people who make the parts. Some of those bridges burned before these transformers did. The tit for tat isn't symmetrical, and that's the point. Russia can volley cruise missiles. Ukraine scales industrial sabotage with swarms of relatively cheap drones. One burns through stockpiles of high-end munitions, the other leverages ingenuity and a talent pool of coders who used to build food delivery apps and now tune flight controllers at 3 a.m. Neither side has a monopoly on adaptation. Both sides are incentivized to make the other's winter miserable. There's also a signal to Russian industry. If the grid nodes that power assemblies, smelters, and depots can be touched, redundancy stops being a spreadsheet and becomes an existential requirement. Expect guarded substations, sand-filled transformers, decoys, and thicker point defenses around critical yards. Expect, too, a migration of maintenance budgets from desirable to necessary. For Ukraine's allies, tonight's blaze will fuel debates. Are cross-border infrastructure strikes fair play when you're defending against a country that spent 2 winters trying to freeze you? Does hitting power hurt the Russian war machine or just harden the Russian public? The answer won't be settled in a think tank seminar. It will be measured in transformer deliveries, outage maps, and political speeches in Moscow. Let's ground this in numbers one more time. Shaturskaya's installed capacity sits near 1.5 gigawatts, with that efficient 400 megawatt combined cycle crown jewel in the mix. Lose a few transformers, and you can still run something, if you can move the output. Lose the wrong conductors and switchgear, and you've got a silent powerhouse staring at its own shoes. The difference between hurt and halted is what damage crews find when the smoke clears. Remember those early social clips showing the fire rolling across the yard line? Watch them again with an engineer's eye. It's not just big flame equals big damage. It's where is the flame? A burn centered on the outdoor yard means transformers and maybe shunt reactors. A burn near turbine halls means far uglier weeks. So far, the angles suggest the former, bad but fixable. That still steals sleep from grid operators. And yes, different outlets are already claiming different impacts. Some talk localized heat loss, others hint at brief interruptions and fast stabilization. Ukraine-friendly sources highlight the scale, Russian state-friendly ones downplay it. That's the narrative trench war that sits atop the drone war. As ever, the truth is a moving target that settles only when repair crews clock out and customers stop complaining. Here's the strategic bottom line. If Ukraine did this, it marks an escalation in target type and a demonstration of range and accuracy. If it didn't, if this was an accident conveniently blamed on drones, Russia still has to pay the reputational price of appearing vulnerable to drones. Either way, the deterrence math gets rewritten: defend everywhere or risk a viral bonfire. A quick nod to the human piece. Electric heat is not a chess piece. It's families, laundries, clinics, and night shift workers. In Ukraine, that truth has been swallowed bitterly for 2 winters. In Russia, it's arriving late and loud. The people of Shatura didn't choose this war. Tonight, they're living its consequences as closely as any apartment in Kharkiv did last December. So where does it go from here? Expect Russian air defense to thicken around power assets within 100+ kilometers of Moscow. Expect more patrols, more EW, more sleepless controllers staring at green dots that may or may not be trouble. Expect Ukraine to weigh the propaganda value of repeat performances against the strategic value of keeping Russia guessing where the next glow will be. Our closing question is simple, and it's the one strategists hate because it's not answered with a slide. Does burning a transformer yard change the course of a war? Not by itself, but change is cumulative. Oil depots here, power plants there, shipyards kissed by night-flying visitors. Each hit nudges risk calculators in quiet rooms. Tonight, a 1.5 gigawatt message burned across the snow. Somebody sent it, somebody received it, and millions watched the horizon and wondered what else in this war is closer than they thought.